Imagine this. Every night, your body is being sabotaged by one hidden habit you don't even realize you're doing. It's quietly inflaming your prostate, wrecking your sleep, and draining your energy. And yet, nobody talks about it. Not your friends, not your family. And surprisingly, not even most doctors. Most men assume their prostate problems are just a part of getting older. But what if I told you that age isn't the real issue? That something far more subtle, a daily behavior you probably think is harmless, is what's forcing you out of bed at 1 a.m., 3 a.m., and 5 a.m., leaving you exhausted and frustrated. And here's the twist. Stopping this one habit doesn't just help your prostate, it can completely change how you sleep, how you feel, and even how confident you are during the day. Over the next few minutes, I'm going to reveal the most overlooked habits that silently sabotage men's health after 60. So let's start with the first hidden habit, one that almost every man over 60 has tried at some point. And the truth is, it makes things much worse. The water myth. For years, men have been told that if they stop drinking water in the evening, they'll cut down on those frustrating midnight bathroom trips. Seems logical, right? Less water means less urine. But here's the truth no one tells you. This habit is quietly making things worse. When you cut back too much, your urine doesn't just lessen, it changes. It becomes darker, more concentrated, and far more acidic. And that irritates your bladder like sandpaper. The bladder then sends urgent signals to empty even when it's barely half full. The result? You end up waking up more often, not less. I've seen men proudly tell me they solved their nighttime trips by skipping water after dinner, only to admit later that they're up 3, 4, even 5 times a night, passing only a trickle each time. It's frustrating, it's exhausting, and it chips away at your confidence. The truth is, dehydration silently fuels prostate inflammation. Without steady hydration, toxins linger, tissues swell, and the prostate becomes even more sensitive. But here's the good news. Fixing it doesn't mean guzzling gallons before bed. The solution is simple. Sip consistently during the day, taper off 90 minutes before sleep, and aim for light, clear urine. That's your body's way of saying, we're in balance. And once you see the difference, you'll never look at water the same way again. But hydration is only the beginning, because even if you drink perfectly, another common habit is working against you. Something so ordinary, most men don't even question it. Sitting too long. Picture this. You finally get to sit back in your favorite chair, maybe to watch the game, read the paper, or scroll through your phone. It feels harmless. You've earned the rest. But here's what most men don't realize. Hours of sitting quietly fuel prostate problems. When you sit for too long, you put constant low-level pressure on your pelvic region. That pressure slows blood flow to the prostate. And when circulation slows, inflammation builds. Nutrients don't arrive as easily, waste doesn't leave as quickly, and the tissues around your prostate quietly swell. At first, you don't notice much. A little extra urgency here, a slightly weaker stream there. But over time, it creeps up until every bathroom trip feels like a battle. I've seen it happen again and again. Men who feel stuck in their chairs and end up stuck in a cycle of worsening symptoms. The fix doesn't require a gym membership or complicated workouts. It's as simple as setting a rule. Every 30 minutes, stand up, stretch, take a few steps, look out the window. These micro movements release pressure, restore blood flow, and remind your body it's still active and alive. One retired principal I worked with started doing this, and within weeks, he noticed his nights were calmer, his energy brighter, his confidence stronger. Sometimes the smallest shifts make the biggest difference. The caffeine trap. For many men, that first cup of coffee in the morning feels sacred. The smell, the warmth, the ritual. It's more than just a drink, it's a routine. But here's the catch. Caffeine doesn't just wake up your mind, it jolts your entire urinary system. Caffeine is a stimulant. It increases urine production and makes your bladder muscles twitch with extra sensitivity. For younger men, this might just mean an extra trip to the bathroom. But for men over 60, where the prostate may already be enlarged, it's like throwing gasoline on a slow-burning fire. Suddenly, you're rushing to the bathroom more often. You feel pressure, urgency, and sometimes even that never fully empty sensation. One man I worked with used to have coffee in the morning, iced tea at lunch, and a cola at dinner. When he cut back to just a single morning coffee and swapped the rest for herbal teas, his nighttime trips dropped almost instantly. This doesn't mean you have to give it up entirely. Enjoy that morning cup, savor it. But if you're drinking caffeine throughout the day, your bladder and prostate are paying the price. Moderation is the secret weapon here. And caffeine is only a piece of the puzzle, because the food sitting on your plate might be sending even stronger signals that fuel your prostate irritation day after day. Processed and spicy foods. Most men think of food as fuel, something to keep the body running. But the truth is, every bite you take sends a signal. And when your plate is loaded with processed meats, fried foods, or spicy dishes, those signals are inflaming your prostate. Processed foods like bacon, sausages, deli meats, and frozen dinners are packed with chemicals, unhealthy fats, and preservatives. These ingredients crank up inflammation, making an already sensitive prostate even more irritated. Add in some spicy foods, chili peppers, hot sauces, fiery curries, and now your bladder and pelvic nerves are overstimulated, tricking your body into feeling full even when it's not. I once had a patient who swore he was doing everything right. He walked daily, cut back on soda, tried to drink more water, but every night he was still running to the bathroom. When I asked him about his meals, he admitted to eating bacon at breakfast, deli sandwiches at lunch, and a bowl of spicy chili for dinner. He had no idea his food choices were fueling the fire. After swapping out processed meats for grilled chicken and fish, adding leafy greens, berries, and healthy fats, his symptoms began to ease within weeks. He told me, "Doc, I finally feel more like myself again." That's the power of food as medicine.
Holding urine too long. We've all done it. You're stuck in traffic, watching a game, or busy with work, and you tell yourself, I can hold it. Seems harmless, right? But here's the shocking truth. Regularly ignoring the urge to pee quietly damages both your bladder and your prostate. Every time you resist the urge, your bladder stretches like an overfilled balloon. That constant pressure pushes down on your prostate, irritating tissues that are already sensitive. Over the years, this habit can weaken your urinary muscles, slow your stream, and leave you with that annoying, never fully empty feeling. And there's more. When you hold it too often, your bladder doesn't empty completely. That leftover urine becomes the perfect breeding ground for bacteria, leading to infections that inflame your prostate even further. Smoking and secondhand smoke. You already know smoking wrecks the lungs and the heart, but what most men don't realize is how destructive it is to the prostate. Even if you quit smoking years ago or never smoked at all, just being around it can quietly inflame your prostate for decades. Here's why. Every cigarette releases thousands of toxic chemicals. These toxins choke blood flow, reduce oxygen levels, and trigger chronic, low-grade inflammation throughout the body. Over time, that inflammation stiffens the delicate prostate tissue, slows healing, and leaves the gland more vulnerable to swelling and pain. I once treated a construction worker in his 70s who proudly told me he quit smoking a decade ago. But he still spent every Friday night playing poker with buddies who smoked like chimneys. He couldn't understand why his prostate symptoms kept getting worse. The secondhand smoke was the missing piece. Once he cut out that exposure, his nights improved within weeks. The truth is, smoke doesn't just irritate your lungs. It poisons your blood, and your prostate feels it every single day. Avoiding it is one of the simplest but most powerful steps you can take. But as damaging as smoke is, there's another habit that may be even more dangerous, not because of what you take in, but because of what you ignore. Skipping prostate checkups. Ask most men when they last had their prostate checked, and you'll hear the same answer. It's been a while. Some avoid it out of pride, others out of fear, and many simply tell themselves, I don't want to know. But here's the problem. Waiting until the symptoms are unbearable often means waiting too long. The prostate is sneaky. When it starts to swell or misbehave, the early signs are subtle. A slightly weaker stream, an extra trip to the bathroom here and there. Nothing dramatic, nothing that screams for urgent care. But by the time those signs become impossible to ignore, the problem is usually more advanced. I once sat across from a 66-year-old man who had been suffering for over a year. When I asked why he waited, he said quietly, "I was afraid of what they'd find. Too much red and processed meat." For many men, a big steak or a plate of ribs feels like the ultimate meal. It's hearty, satisfying, and often tied to memories of family gatherings or celebrations. But here's the hidden cost. Diets heavy in red and processed meats quietly stoke the very inflammation that makes prostate problems worse. These meats are loaded with saturated fats, preservatives, and additives that trigger chronic, low-grade inflammation throughout the body. When your prostate is already enlarged or sensitive, that inflammation is like pouring gasoline on a fire. Over time, it doesn't just worsen urinary symptoms, it's also linked to a higher risk of more serious prostate conditions. Belly fat and obesity. A little extra weight around the middle might not seem like a big deal, but belly fat isn't just extra padding. It's biologically active, meaning it sends powerful hormonal signals that quietly work against your prostate every single day. Here's how it works. Belly fat converts valuable testosterone into estrogen. As estrogen levels rise and testosterone fall, the prostate begins to enlarge. That means more urgency, more pressure, weaker flow, and restless nights. On top of that, abdominal fat pumps out inflammatory chemicals that make swelling worse and slow down blood circulation. Chronic stress. Out of all the hidden habits we've talked about, this one may be the most underestimated. Stress. Not the kind that you feel for a day or two, but the kind that lingers quietly for years. The kind you carry in your shoulders, in your jaw, in the pit of your stomach, without even realizing it. Chronic stress floods your body with cortisol, the stress hormone. And here's what cortisol does. It fuels inflammation, tightens the pelvic floor muscles, and interferes with hormone production. Over time, it lowers testosterone, raises estrogen, and leaves your prostate more sensitive to pain and swelling. The end result is restless nights, weaker flow, and an exhausted body that never feels fully at ease. I once spoke with a man in his 60s who told me, "Doc, I don't really get stressed. I just keep moving." But as we talked, it became clear he was carrying decades of pressure, worrying about his family, his finances, his purpose in retirement. He never gave himself permission to slow down. When he finally started practicing 10 minutes of deep breathing, walking at sunrise, and journaling once a week, his symptoms began to ease. He slept deeper, felt calmer, and said, "I didn't realize how much I was holding in until I let it go." Managing stress isn't a weakness, it's a strategy, and it may be the missing piece that makes every other habit easier to change. Now we've uncovered all 10 hidden habits, but here's the part most men never hear. You can reverse course. You don't need extreme diets, risky surgery, or a cabinet full of pills. You just need small, intentional steps taken consistently. Drink water wisely, stand up often, cut back on caffeine, eat cleaner, move more, breathe deeper. Bit by bit, you'll feel your body respond. And to tie it all together, here's what I call the 15-second bedtime ritual. Every night before sleep, take one deep breath in, hold for 3 seconds, then exhale slowly while placing your hands gently over your lower abdomen. As you breathe, relax the muscles around your bladder and pelvic floor, letting the tension melt away. Repeat this 3 times. It sounds almost too simple, but men who do this tell me their nights change. They wake up less, sleep deeper, and finally feel in control again. Because sometimes it's not about doing more, it's about releasing what's been silently holding you back. If this message resonated with you, let me know in the comments. Share it with a brother, a friend, or anyone you know who's quietly struggling. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more practical health insights made for men over 60. Remember this, your prostate is listening.